Hey friends, inventory management can be a major pain. Keeping track of all your ingredients, your inventory across warehouses and co-mans, your retail and e-com orders, and tying all of that together. When your Excel spreadsheet breaks, check out our friends at Sin7 Core, our inventory management software partner. You can track everything you make and sell, and as the leading tool for early CPG brands, it integrates with all the major software like QuickBooks, Shopify, Amazon, and whatever your warehouse and co-mans are using. Through Startup CPG, you get a free month trial and then 50% off the 3 months after that. To get started, check out sin7.com/startupcpg. That's Sin, C-I-N, like the first 3 letters in Cincinnati, and the number 7. So sin7.com/startupcpg.
You know, the way we view Bristol Farms is we consider ourselves a gourmet store that leans in on natural, leans in on healthier options. So our goal is we won't always have 100% of just natural. We're going to have offerings so that our customers can shop, everything. Their entire shopping can come to our store. So we understand that there's customers who are still going to buy your traditional toilet paper or your traditional detergent, but we also know that people want healthier options for food. We definitely add more natural now because the consumer demand has definitely changed over the years. Like it's now easier, when again, 15 years ago, you had to go to, it was more of a destination, you'd had to find that one random store that had that selection. But the nice thing now is that most grocery stores have that. So for Bristol Farms, we really lean in on, we want to create an elevated experience.
Hello, dear CPGers. I am thrilled to introduce many of you to one of my favorite people in our industry, Darren Viscount from Bristol Farms. He manages the Natural Living set. In this episode, we talk about his personal health and career journey. It's super inspirational, his passion for engaging with emerging brands, his take on a bunch of trends in the health and wellness and supplements categories. It's a really interesting one for me because I know a lot more about food and beverage than I do about the Natural Living sets, so I really learned a lot. Make sure to give Darren a follow on LinkedIn, and I hope you enjoy. Here we go, friends. Are you ready to meet your new best friend? I think it is sure to be Darren Viscount, the Senior Natural Living Category Manager at Bristol Farms. Bristol Farms is one of the Southern California tastemaker retailers. It's a gourmet market chain with carefully selected meat, seafood, produce, cheese, wine, and imports. They focus on healthy foods for everybody. And I'm always really impressed by how engaged their store employees are if you go in. Our friend Darren is one of the most passionate supporters of emerging brands that I've ever met. He has a super inspirational personal health journey, which ties into his category management approach and his product expertise in the natural living and health and wellness categories. His support launching countless brands has made all of the difference for so many people aspiring to improve our CPG ecosystem. And rest assured that at any CPG event, he and his partner in crime, Efren Chakach, will always be the coolest dressed guys in the room, probably wearing some of your brand swag. Please join me in welcoming Darren Viscount. Woo! Yeah, Darren. All right.
Thank you.
Cool. I'm very excited to hang out with you here today, Darren, as
Likewise.
always. So I actually got to see you 2 weeks ago now. I'm like time dating our podcast, but we got to hang out in Manhattan Beach at the Beverage Forum. You were kind enough to join the retailer judging panel for the beverage pitches that we did there with 15 of our emerging brands. How did you like that experience? What was it like for you hang with all those early brands? Pretty good time, right?
I mean, I love it because obviously I get to, see brands that are just starting, that I get to hear their stories about, how they got there, their journey, their whole passion. I mean, I find those things, most of those events are just all about the passion. And, you just get to see these early to market emerging brands that are just going to be, tomorrow they're going to be making big things. So it's exciting to be part of that.
Darren, I think you more than anybody that I know are having a good time doing your job.
I love what I do. I love what I do. And honestly, I mean, the thing that I have learned is connecting with people is the most important part about my job. So any opportunity, as you know, I go to every event, I make sure I connect with everyone. So, ultimately, this is a people business. And if I can help people, or I can help founders, or I can help brands, that nourishes me personally, but obviously nourishes our business as well.
Awesome. And I know we'll get to hang out again at our million message party coming up in about a month here, where we're celebrating 1 million messages sent on our Slack channel. I know you and Efren are coming to that. And then again, we'll be hanging at Fancy Foods in New York at the end of June, which I think is going to be a fantastic time. And we've got pitch sessions where brands get to meet with you, and there are going to be some incredible events that we're doing. We're doing a party every night, basically. I think what we've realized is because we have this big platform, it's sort of our like privilege and responsibility to just throw as many parties as possible and get everyone together. Because it isn't like, why have dinner alone?
Yeah. I mean, that's why, that's what it is. It's all about, like, any of these events are connecting, and how do you connect the human experience? How do you connect people? And through those events, like, people can let their hair down a little bit, and they can, relax and get to know each other on a different level, not just what they can get from you. But, I think it's more important to just connect with each other.
And you never know what's going to happen when you're just like, even when you're just chatting without an agenda, what kind of ideas you might come up with someone, or just, have forged some unexpected bond. Darren, I would love, maybe you could just take us all the way back and tell us about your career journey. Like, how did you get into this industry of ours?
I mean, I think like a lot of people in the natural food industry or any grocery industry, we all have kind of our traumas or our past lives that have just, created our future. And so for me, when I was 27 years ago, I was diagnosed with leukemia. In that journey of, trying to figure out, it was an unexpected, I was feeling well. And then one day, I was in the hospital for 14 months, fighting for my life, was told that probably I would not walk, probably told that I wouldn't live past a year. So for me, it was, traumatic. I was just in college, thought, I was thinking my future, never knew this was going to happen. Basically, my life changed overnight. I mean, I literally was going to the doctors one day and being rushed to the hospital and living in the hospital for 14 months. So, that really shaped who I am as an individual, but also helped me to understand how to deal with people and how to deal with companies and even my own professional career. So it all started basically after that. I was trying to find answers for myself on how to heal myself, how to heal others. Walked into a natural food store in the middle of nowhere, bought a bottle of acidophilus. And then next thing you know, I was living there basically. The owner was like, well, you're here every day. Why don't you just work? And I was like, oh, I'm going to college. Do I need this? But then I just fell in love with the industry. I just realized that, if I could have my personal story could help one person, then I knew that there was a reason and a purpose for my life. So that's really kind of how I brought my journey. And really, and it also impacts how I make decisions, how I work with other people, how I work with my teams. I bring empathy and kindness to everything. So it really understanding when you're in that place of, okay, you shouldn't be here, you may not be here. And knowing that, for me, I'll be celebrating 30 years being cancer-free this year is an amazing compliment.
Yeah. Thank you. By the way, I already saw on, I think Spotify, they labeled the podcast as explicit content because we must have let a few curse words fly. So I think we can say on this podcast, fuck cancer. Very happy we can just let that one fly too. Darren, that's an amazing story. Yeah, what a cool, just origin story for you of, starting your, I would say, supplement journey, and how that led you into this really impactful career.
It's pretty cool to see that, and really now that I've kind of, for many years, I didn't really talk about it much, my whole career, I kind of just hit it. And then I had decided over like the last 2 years to really make it more public. And what I found is that, when you are able to, show empathy and that you're showing a little vulnerability, that people will come to you, and that's what's been so special to me because people kind of see me outside my role. And that's really kind of why I started doing it, is because I didn't want people, my whole thing is I don't feel like I come to someone and just want to get something from them. I think the greater good, whether it's in business or whether it's personal, is you should always be giving. And once you give, you receive. And, the whole cycle of it boomerangs back to you at all times. So I think that's important, kind of how I live my life and then how I live my professional career with my vendors.
That's a really beautiful sentiment. And I've learned that, I think, later on in life, when you're younger. I think, I don't know, maybe like just how I was raised. I don't know. I always am really hesitant to, I think, burden people with what the things that are wrong going on in my life. And probably anyone who listens to this podcast a lot or who knows me knows that, mainly I'm just about like positive energy and enthusiasm. Definitely. But yeah, like there is a lot of hard stuff obviously behind that and in my life. And my natural tendency is not to show a lot of it. But I have learned that that like I've been in like group circling sessions, and basically like people will get really vulnerable, and it's so amazing to watch when somebody really takes a risk and does it and reveals something very difficult and personal, just how much support they get from everybody around them. And people are just, I think, really inspired then to open up as well. It almost is just like, oh, Liz, okay, like, well, I'll take the next step. I'll do something even more vulnerable. It's really amazing, I think, to set that example for everybody out there. And yeah, I can see how well the whole community has rallied around you and responded to what you've shared. So, I mean, yeah, hopefully a lot of people can take some personal inspiration from you on that and whatever troubles they're having. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting. Most people will come up to me. I think that's the thing that's most special to me as they share their own stories. Because I think a lot of people will hide, their traumas. I always say everyone has a trauma, just a different degree of trauma or a different situation. But in the end of the day, we all have traumas. And so being able to share that and kind of, take that mask off a little bit is special to me, that people can, I mean, honestly, that's how people introduce themselves to me first. They connect to my story. And then they go, oh, well, I have this in my personal, and, that's special to me that they're sharing that. I'm a stranger, and ideally is, these are a stranger to all these people, but they're opening up to me because they feel like they know me. And that's important to me, because I would say that, most of my career, most of my life, I've kind of just been really hidden and kept it to myself, because it kind of what you were saying is not burden another person or feel weak. Because a lot of that times when you're exposing yourself, most people think, okay, well, that person's weak. And as I've kind of journeyed through this in the last 2 years, I realized it wasn't weakness, because, to get through any trauma and get out on the other side, that shows strength. And it's okay to be, again, we all have traumas, we all have challenges, and it's okay to express that out loud and, not to be ashamed of those traumas.
Just my mom had a pretty serious bout with kidney cancer when I was growing up, and she's fine now, fortunately. I think I was 13 at the time. And I don't know. I mean, I wasn't the happiest kid, honestly. And like, I wasn't as close to my parents as I am now. I have a, really beautiful relationship and friendship with them. Even like after business school, I lived at home for a couple of years to pay off the B school debt while I was traveling. And I just remember saying to my mom once, like, it just makes me so sad thinking about that kidney cancer, which was very, very serious, like, emergency operation. Just because, like, if it had gone the wrong way, like, I wouldn't have gotten to be best friends with you now. Which, my mom definitely is, my best friend. And it just like, made me really sad, but also happy just to think about it in that way. Like, I'm so glad I got the chance then to really develop such a strong relationship with her as I got older, and just, really appreciated everything that she has to offer. And Darren, I feel the same way about you, man. It makes me so happy that you fought hard and got through it, and that I get to be friends with you now, and all of the brands that get to be friends with you and get your amazing support as well. So
thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay. So mention, just going back to your journey and like the first kind of supplement that you bought for your treatment or to get better afterwards. How do most consumers start buying different kinds of supplements? Because like, okay, I actually don't currently take any supplements. Probably there are a bunch that I should. Living here in LA, man, I know a lot of the like biohacker people who are all up on, Brian Johnson stuff, or like, I don't know, they have a whole like, oh, what's your sleep stack? Do you take these 8 things before you go to sleep? There are a lot of different things out there. So I kind of know how they're discovering stuff, through different biohacker influencers or whatever. And then, okay, yeah, like, maybe you have a specific ailment, and then your doctor might tell you about one supplement, or the pharmacist might, or I don't know, maybe you have a friend who's just on some supplement and they think they're feeling better from it and they recommend it to you. Like, how does that usually happen though? I mean, are those the main ways, or like, how are consumers typically going to end up in your set looking for some kind of a supplement or health and beauty product, or, you know what I'm asking?
I think it's changed over the years. So when I first started, obviously, you had the few people who just wanted to be healthy, and they're coming to the store trying to find the latest and the greatest. I think what's changed a lot now is obviously social media really dictates a lot of our buying decisions. So someone sees something on TikTok, or they see something on, the gram, and, or even, through their friends, their friends' journeys. And so a lot of it is I've heard about something or I've seen something on this or information. I think we're in the information age where we're bombarded with a ton of information. Then we kind of have to funnel it down to say, okay, well, what are the best things for us? And, one of the things when I'm working with customers or a guest is, one size doesn't fit all. But I do know there's a basic program. So most people come in looking for the basic. They're going to do multivitamins. They're going to do the probiotic. They're going to do a protein. Those are your basic foundational. And most people kind of at this point, because we have enough information, whether it's through social media, through our own research, through friends, I think most people kind of know the basic. And then once they kind of start taking that, they kind of layer on more items. But my thing is always like when I'm working with customers is just consistency, making sure that, it doesn't matter if you take 10 items or one item. If you don't take them at all, they don't work. And so it's important to kind of just being not hard on yourself, because I have that issue. Like a lot of times, like I do take a lot, like I take about 50 to 60 supplements a day. But in that journey, I definitely have to, there are days where I miss it because I'm a normal human where I get sidetracked or I, get busy. But I try not to be hard on myself. If I do one, I'm grateful and have gratitude for that. If I do 50 today, I'm grateful and gratitude for that. So I don't feel like, there's any pressure on what I'm taking and how much I'm taking. It's just part of I make it part of my daily routine. So I don't overthink it. And I think for most customers, that's kind of how they come. And then sometimes we obviously have people who just walk into the department and they're kind of like, well, I know that I should be. It's like, I should be doing this and I should. There's a lot of shoulds. And so our goal in our stores is, okay, we're kind of helping make like the buying decisions, the buyer's remorse. So by having a little educated team or educating ourselves, we're able to at least provide more of that educated information to our customers so that they can make a better buying decision. But yeah, I would say those are the main things. Most people now, it's just mostly social media.
That's what I was going to ask about. Like, what % actually now of those purchases do you think really are coming from social media? Let's both guess. I'm going to guess, I don't know, 50%.
I'd probably say it's higher now because a lot, like, it's crazy because like I can think of like 3 just recently. Like right now, CMOS is very popular. CMOS, I didn't even know about CMOS until I saw TikTok videos. And until that occurred, I mean, I wouldn't even have thought, okay, well, I should, what is that? It's not something that was something that it's a little weird. It's kind of in a gel. I'm gonna have to it's from the sea, I mean, it's definitely something that traditionally shouldn't be as popular as it is. And it just kind of went viral. And then next thing you know, customers are coming in. I'm like, okay, I saw this on, or ashwagandha was another one, or chlorophyll a few years ago. Like most of that came from social media, where someone came in and said, oh, I saw, because most of those times you're seeing positive reviews. You don't typically see a negative review. And like anything, we want to try to change our lives. And a lot of those do provide some hope. I mean, ultimately, all the supplements we do, it's providing hope, whether it's being healthier, an extra day with your family. So that's kind of how I've always viewed supplements, as that hope of a better tomorrow, feeling better tomorrow, just a strength and wisdom from it.
It's interesting you say that. Actually, CMOS I only found out about because I was watching Shark Tank and Alexio Gibson was on it talking about his company, and I was just blown away. I mean, learning about it, but then also just by him because he's such an inspiring guy. And we were fortunate to get him on the podcast as well, which is one of the, I know, top ranking ones that we ever did. He got to deal with Mark on the show, which was super cool. So, okay, I hope this isn't too personal of a question, but with the stack that you have, the 50 or 60 supplements that you take, do you categorize them in a different way or think about them in kind of groupings of like, here are the ones I absolutely have to take for my health. Here are the ones that I think are, will just like help me feel better or concentrate better or whatever. Do you like have a way that you think about it like that? Or like, these are the must takes and then these are the good, nice to takes?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have my foundational products. So I make sure I do a protein every day, a probiotic every day, things that are really more whole body impact. I try not to focus on just like, obviously I have some ailments that I'm trying to deal with, sleep and fatigue issues. But, the way I look at it is I'm looking at my overall health. So I know that through gut health, if you have good biome, you're able to have a stronger immune system. If you have a stronger immune system, you're stronger all over. So I would go through the supplements. I always make sure I do a multivitamin, a probiotic, a protein, really the basic, the foundational. I mean, and I would say that to every customer walking in is finding those foundational products that have been clinically proven to make a difference. So the multivitamin, we know that we don't get enough nutrients from our food. So, okay, there's the multivitamin. We know most people don't get fermented foods. So there's the probiotic. Most people don't take the quality proteins because we live on a diet of fast food, which tends to be the lower end of the protein. So having a good quality protein. So I kind of look, but I always make sure there's certain ones I do every day. And honestly, it does get to a point where sometimes 50 is a lot, just because of either time or just like after you kind of get like fatigue, you get pill fatigue from taking so many for sure. But I kind of make it part of my routine. I mean, I literally have them on the counter. I have all 7 days planned, so that when I wake up, as I'm getting dressed or I'm getting ready for my day, I'm just taking a few, and then walking and going and taking a few, and kind of make sure that I'm consistent with it.
And what protein do you take?
I don't know if I can say brands as well, but typically I do plant proteins. And only for me, that's because I kind of have a sensitive stomach. So for me, plant proteins tend to do better for me. I look for ones that have less ingredients. I don't want ones that have a lot of sugar. So I definitely have a few favorite brands at the moment. But what's really trending is whey protein is really trending high right now. There are benefits for the average person who's doing whey protein. You get benefits of some immune building portions of the protein, because you're getting all the amino acids. If you're working out more often, you're breaking down your protein. So you definitely want to add more protein to your diet. But there's a lot of great ones. I mean, we're in a time now that when you used to start with proteins 15 years ago, they were horrible. They were really grainy. They were just like chalky. They taste like a protein supplement. And now I take it, and it's literally probably the one thing I look forward to every day. There's a couple brands that are like, it's like a milkshake, but it has 5 ingredients. So I know that I'm not getting a burden on too many ingredients, quality ingredients, and I know that everything I'm taking in is going to be supportive of my whole body.
I love that. And shout out for our plant protein friend, Green Regime. I know they're sold locally here in LA, and also are a finalist for our the competition that we're doing with GNC, where one brand's going to get national distribution. So
nice.
As of this moment, they're in the finals.
Awesome.
The final 6 for that out of hundreds of submissions. So
That's
excited for that one. I've got some here in my house. I need to remember to take some of it after my workout. Okay. So getting, I think, to Bristol Farms, because like I have a decent understanding of what it is, but obviously I want to hear more about it from you, because I'm based here in LA. I moved out here a year and a half ago, and immediately when you're trying to understand who are the key retailers here in SoCal, LA, Bristol Farms is going to be one of the first that you hear about. So can you just maybe help everyone who doesn't have the benefit of even having been in a Bristol Farms ever? What's it like? What's the chain all about? What does it feel like if you walk into the stores? And, maybe how does it compare with some of the other SoCal retailers here? What's the role it plays in the ecosystem?
The way we view Bristol Farms is we consider ourselves a gourmet store that leans in on natural, leans in on healthier options. So our goal is we won't always have 100% of just natural. We're going to have offerings so that our customers can shop, everything. Their entire shopping can come to our stores. So we understand that there's customers who are still going to buy your traditional toilet paper or your traditional, detergent. But we also know that people want healthier options for food. So we definitely, I would say right now, our mix of, if you look at our total store, it'd be 70% natural, 30% conventional. We definitely add more natural now, because the consumer demand has definitely changed over the years. Like, it's now easier, when, again, 15 years ago, you had to go to, it was more of a destination. You'd had to find that one random store that had that selection. But the nice thing now is that most grocery stores have that. So for Bristol Farms, we really lean in on, we want to create an elevated experience. So someone comes in, they know that there's a lot of good options, healthy options, and then they're going to be taste what good too. Because that's obviously the miss. I think most people think, oh, well, if it's healthy, it's going to taste horrible. And I think the nice thing that's happened over the years is, back in the day, was you had something high protein or you had something low carb. I mean, it was tasted like that. And now you can serve those type of foods without even knowing that exists in those foods. And that's amazing, where people can now make it part of their lifestyle instead of just that, like, oh, you're the random granola person who wants to eat, carrots all day. So I think that the number of options is amazing, but really it's creating an elevated experience for our customers, the most important thing for us. And really, because we all shop. I mean, that's what makes us all common. Everyone has to eat. Everyone has to shop. You have to shop somewhere. So our hope is that you're shopping at Bristol Farms. As far as how we kind of, in SoCal, I would definitely say that we cater to a little bit more affluent, older clientele. But we also want to really, my objective this year is really bring in things that's, the Gen X, the Gen Z, a little younger. Bring those type of products. That's where the CMOS comes in, some other products like that we know that's really trending well. And then so that we're catering to all demographics and all people, kind of what you said, healthy food for everybody is important to us.
Yeah, that's cool. And it makes sense because, I've checked out your set, obviously, in the store. It's always my favorite one. A lot of really, really cool stuff happening in there. The health and wellness products, supplements, and then, of course, the social tonics that you guys have in the natural living set that has some of my favorite brands. Our friends from Leisure Hydration. I think that's where chlorophyll water is, a bunch of other great ones. So yeah, one thing that I had trouble figuring out at the beginning of this journey was, what is the relationship between Bristol Farms and Lazy Acres, which are both amazing stores, and I know they're related but separate.
Yes. So our parent company is Good Food Holdings. So they actually own 5 banners. So they would own Bristol Farms, Lazy Acres, New Leaf, New Seasons, and Metropolitan. So they're an overseas company that owns us, but we all are independently operated. So yes, we are all owned by one entity, but how we actually service our customers, we view each banner as a unique entity. So, Bristol being the gourmet grocer, where Lazy Acres would be your traditional natural food grocer, where 100% they're Lazy Acres they're looking at certain standards and quality ingredients and attributes that are a little different than we do. We still look at those same items, but they're just a little bit more strict on their ingredients compared to our stores. So that's kind of how they fit. We obviously work out of the same office, so we obviously get ideas from each other. I would say right now, we probably carry 80% of the same items at both locations or both banners, because we know that the same things that trend in natural also tend to trend in conventional. So we know that we want to have both customers who, are the transitional customer. Maybe they're not 100% hardcore natural, but they're not 100% conventional. And so that's kind of where we fit. Healthy foods, good foods, and quality foods.
Got it. And I remember, just because I'd worked with them before, that there's kind of like a thing about, if you're in one of the sections in one of the stores, then it's kind of in the computer system there. So it might need to be in the same section. Like if you're in natural living for one, maybe you'll be in the same for the other. Or remind me how that works.
So, because we are operating out of the same office, and we share the same computer system. So yeah, so if an item or a brand goes into one category at Bristol Farms, it's in the same category at Lazy Acres. So that can, be sometimes challenging because, you don't know what the other banner is having a conversation. So we could both have 2 different categories or having this conversation with the same brand. As we move forward, one of our goals is that we're going to kind of consolidate that to make it a little bit easier for our brands so that they're not having to say, okay, well, because that's a long conversation or a conversation we have often with brands that are like, oh, well, they come to me, for example, because I'm in, doing the social tonics, and maybe grocery at Lazy has looked at one of those drinks, and then I'm looking at it as well in natural living. So, it has been a little small challenge, but something that we work through and make sure that we work as a team to make sure that we're providing the best options.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I love Lazy also. I think the thing that I like the most about Lazy is the deli there,
Yes,
where I just,
yes.
I don't know if I have gotten the chance to have a sandwich from Bristol, but the ones at Lazy Acres, it's so delicious. You're
Yeah.
going to for sure take a snooze afterwards. You're going to get just some big delicious sandwich and a cookie, and then just be whisked away into a sleep wonderland afterwards. Okay, so then, just focusing on your set, the natural living category, can you give me an overview of what it is? What are the key products in it? What are the top selling kind of products in each of those categories that you manage?
So in natural living, we have both, supplements, health and beauty. We have some OTC. So our top selling categories right now, really the trending categories are still protein. Is just, for us, that's where majority of our sales come from, because protein, again, it's one of those things that almost every customer at this point now, regardless of age and demographic, will take a protein. So protein is still our strongest category. Probiotics still continue to have positive growth. Again, I think there's enough studies and enough information out there that people know that, okay, that's just, having a core strength in your gut is going to make your overall health good. So I think that, so I'd say probiotics, mushrooms tend to still do very well for you because there's enough of like lion's mane being beneficial to your brain, reishi being beneficial to your immune system, blood sugar, things like that. So those would still be trending. Multivitamins always going to do well because it's just a foundational product. So the way we do try to become first to market. So I do a lot of research, whether I'm reaching out to people. I mean, I spend a lot of time, usually I try to do once or twice a week where I just go on social media and see what's trending. So I'll go on to one of the social media platforms and start just doing searches. But I also find a lot, even through LinkedIn, LinkedIn's been a great source for me to find new products. Because I find that people who are hustling a little bit more and getting that, they're a little bit more first to market. So I love, honestly, that's how I find a lot.
Guilty. LinkedIn
yeah,
hustler.
yeah, yeah.
I want, I want like a hat that says "as seen on LinkedIn."
I know,
It's
right?
it's such a cool platform, but you quickly connect with the people who are also pretty interested in who are just open to connect, instead of just kind of through the traditional pathways. It's funny, when I was submitting to retailers, I almost always assumed if I don't know them, if they don't know who I am, if they haven't heard anything from me personally, and I just submit for a reset, we're not going to get it. And most of the time that was actually true. If you can't find some way to connect with them personally, because I mean, we're humans, it's natural,
For sure.
to, want to just feel differently about something that you have some kind of personal connection with. And, it can be a little risky too. I mean, maybe you're putting yourself out there in a way that doesn't vibe with certain buyers or people who that's not their approach to things. And, you can turn them off even with that kind of an approach. But I found that, I don't know, in more cases than not, people were pretty open to that. And that would probably get us at least on their radar in a different way than just submitting through a portal. So anyways, I applaud you really as being one of the people who are just the most out there, not just being open and responding to messages, but also you're maybe the only buyer that I know of who actually lists your email on your LinkedIn profile, which is a beautiful thing, honestly. And I think just really reflects how excited you are to support brands and just be really open to that. And I think, I think accessibility is just one of the most important things in our industry and in many industries, right? Of just if you don't know the person, then, and then it really is a big barrier for brands and people that don't have a lot of money and have a broker and don't have the experience doing sales before. So they don't really even know how to get on buyers' radars. So thank you on behalf of everybody for setting a great example for accessibility. And also, I think I have a little bit of a clue about how brutal your inbox must be when you do something like that. So really thank you wholeheartedly for just committing to doing that and just getting all those emails from all of us that are so eager to connect with you.
I mean, it can definitely be challenging, because the more I open myself up to and expose myself or get more public, people get to know me. They do feel like they have access. So I do receive a lot of emails. I've received a lot of DMs every day through LinkedIn. One of the things I'm trying to work through this is as I did that, obviously my amount of conversations have increased, and it's hard just to be transparent. It can be hard some days to maintain and keep up with all those emails. And I have I guess my own personal guilt of, my philosophy used to be, I'll get back to you within a certain period of time. But as my time has, I guess, been stretched, but I also try to be really protective of my own personal time. So it's, it brings me so much joy that I can help others. But at the same point, I need to make sure that I have that balance of, okay, I can't work 24/7. But yeah, I think it's just being accessible. And I would say how people have always gotten in front of me. I mean, it's one of those things that I feel like people don't probably, how they present to me, they don't always do a great job. I think getting to know me, they understand my need state. And I think how you succeed as a brand is understanding the person in front of you and be able to meet their needs. And instead of, I think a lot of people will present to me and they will say, we're the best. And I always say, well, everyone says they're the best. But I think there's how are you going to help me? My state is, how are you going to create less work? How are you going to create sales? There's more to it than just getting to know me. That's just the entry. But I think what I'm looking for is what's the long term? How are we going to get it off the shelf? How are we going to support the in-store teams? Things like that.
We'll be right back. Did you know that Startup CPG has an official in-store demo partner? I'm really excited to announce our partnership with Grassroots Marketing. They are awesome for early brands. They have no minimum number of demos, they've got national coverage, and you get full reporting analytics. They work with the big guys like Whole Foods and Sprouts, but also the tastemakers like Central Market, Mother's Market, and they're actually the official demo partner for Erewhon. For the Startup CPG community, there's an introductory rate of $180 for a 3-hour demo for the first 3 months. That'll help you get started, and then their rate goes up to $200. Again, there's no minimum number of demos. That is a huge differentiator because some other agencies I've talked to want you to do an enormous number of demos for each store that you try, and a total number of demos that can just be way out of your budget range. It's really hard to find a good demo partner when you're a growing brand. Grassroots is a great one. If you'd like to chat with their team, email hello@grassrootsdemos.com and ask for the Startup CPG community discount, or connect with Bridget or David on our Slack channel or LinkedIn. And now back to the show. Well, let's just jump right into that then, because I think that's a great question. What are those ways that you see people being really successful? And I mean, I know I always see brands very excited to come in and do demos, for example. And yeah, what are the other ways to do really well with you guys?
Well, I look at it two different ways. As a category manager, I would say for myself, I am very analytical. My responsibility is just getting turns, getting product on the shelf, so I would always say 25% of my time is looking at new items. The other 75% is managing those items. And so the in-store teams are a lot different. They're going to be the emotional portion of our business. They're ultimately the ones selling it. So as a category manager, I look at product A, and then after I bring it to the store, I don't really look at it again. So it's one of those things like it's in the store, and I'm looking at it only to see how it's doing in the future. And then if it's not doing well, how do we promote it more? If it's already doing well, how do we continue to promote it? With the in-store teams, their connection is they get to know you. You come into the store, and the products that are the most successful are the ones that the teams feel most comfortable with. Anything, someone walks up to you and they ask you a question. If you don't feel comfortable with it, you're not going to sell that product. But they're also doing it at emotional. The brands that do the best for us are the brands who come in and treat the teams the best. Meaning they're giving them the samples, they're tasting it, they're really emotionally connected to them. They love them. They're not creating like extra work. I have so many of these brands will come in and they, you can just see, I always say they're being extra. And when someone's extra, yes, I had a brand that recently came in and they wanted certain placement on the shelf, and our agreement was where it was going to be. And they went into the store and they wanted to change it around in the stores. Well, where it was placed on the shelf. And we have a strict guideline of where items go in our store. So the teams immediately were kind of like, who's this person moving, because they're very protective of their, it's their little world. It's their what they have control over, and someone comes in and undoes or wants to have control, So now they have this, instead of really being excited about the brand or the product, now they're like, okay, this person's a little extra. Yeah. And so I think it's always finding that balance of, no one likes the hard sell. No one wants to feel pushy. They just want to feel like we were talking about earlier, that you're connected to each other, but doing it in a manner that you understand that person. So you have to understand, going to the store, if I'm a brand and I see in-store teams, they might not be worrying about the margin. They're probably not going to be worrying about the turns like you are. They're going to be worrying about, okay, I just need to sell this product. How do I sell this product?
Yeah, you can't understate the importance of that, because I mean, yeah, you can have people basically who are on your team who work for the store, because they all, I mean, yeah, they're there every day and they care a lot about what they do. I love all the people who work in the stores that I've met for Bristol Farms. And it was funny because I worked with you with a previous beverage brand, and I remember some stores that people were just like, "What? This is awesome! I love it!" And would like love to just become advocates for the brand. And then I remember one store I went to, the one guy who was stocking the set. He really did not like one of the attributes of the product. And I, didn't feel like it was a fit with how he saw the category, and kind of gave us a stink face. Yeah. But then I got to know him better over the course of a couple of interactions. And then he became one of our biggest fans, actually, like totally did a 180. And I mean, that's fair. Like, yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the passion, right? Yeah, exactly, for like, own your own machine, right? Like he feels a lot of pride and ownership of what he's doing, and, has an opinion on things, which I think is great for anybody, regardless of what they do, to feel that, I think it will give them a sense of satisfaction, but also then drive them just to get better at whatever they're doing. And, hopefully put them on that path if it's what they want to then, ascend through the ranks, like we see with all the Walmart leaders who all started in the store, but just really cared about what they did and had a passion and curiosity. So that was a pretty cool experience. And then I wonder, just because we're kind of hot off Expo West, and, you mentioned a couple trends and things that are important right now in your category, like mushrooms, anything that you're seeing is kind of like maybe turned out to be a fad that was dying off, or any new hot things that you saw at Expo. Even actually, I was kind of surprised, like with mushrooms, I felt like last year I saw a lot of new products launching prominently featuring mushrooms. I didn't see that. I thought we would be like mushroom revolution this year, but I actually am not seeing as much of it as I expected. I also honestly don't know a lot about it. Like I know people talk about lion's mane a lot, but like, yeah, mushrooms or other stuff. Like what are you seeing kind of, ascending or peaking or descending right now?
I mean, mushrooms I think are at their maturity level right now. Like everything. I mean, everything in the supplement department or the food industry is definitely has its life cycle. So I'd say right now mushrooms are still kind of like at their peak. I do think, once it becomes an everyday product, people tend not to be as excited about it. So I think we are at that point where it's an everyday product, meaning it's going to be in food. Once it gets into foods, it becomes an everyday product. I still think it will trend forever because I think there's so much benefits. It's one of the most researched ingredients that you could have on the market. So I still think that is still trending. I think anything with like functional, like what's exciting right now is, being in the social tonics. And I think it's pretty cool to see all these functional beverages. It's things that are helping your mood, helping your stress, helping your sleep, but your everyday item, it's, everyone drinks something every day. So whether it's water, soda, or, functional, but it's been cool to watch this progression of, okay, we could have just had sugary soda. And, there's some people still do that, but the benefit, okay, I can still be, finding that niche of, okay, I am still want to operate in the real world and I want to be social and I don't want to feel like an outcast. It's kind of cool to watch that because I think that's kind of the elevation of it is that, being able, we all want to be part of something. So this still allows you to be part of something, but you're getting the functional benefits. So anything that's going to be, we're seeing a lot of things with gut health is probably the biggest, I would say one of the biggest trends right now. Because the average person, because we have a poor diet, because we're stressed, we definitely have a weakened gut system. So supporting the biome of the gut is obviously beneficial through food or through supplementation. So that one's still doing well. But like I said before, proteins still tend to be trending. On the decline, immune products definitely have been a little bit more on the decline. I think it's, we had 3 years of just talking about immunity. And during that period, it's kind of been interesting because during COVID, there wasn't a lot of innovation. We all were just looking for an immune supplement basically to feel better. But, I think after a while, we had this huge peak of all these immune products. And every time a brand was showing me, it was like, I'm adding elderberry to it. I'm adding vitamin C to it. I'm adding zinc. There was a point where it's like, okay, you don't need 10 products all basically having the same ingredient. But as we went forward, I think now we're out of that phase because now there's other things. Now people just want a healthy lifestyle and we're not so worried about, okay, we got to protect ourselves from survival type of situation.
Yeah, it makes sense. And then, thank you. That's actually really interesting to hear how you think about those trends. And as they relate to then your overall category, from what I understand, you've had a pretty big impact on the natural living set, and just, I mean, it's amazing. I think it's, very vibrant, and I imagine that, the sales are really good. And, what is the thing that you hope to achieve with the overall set? Because I know you are like ROI driven sales. At the end of the day, like you want to support all these brands, but at the end of the day, they need to turn, they need to
For sure.
do certain things for your set, for the store overall. Like, can you tell us anything about like what are the kind of goals that you have? Like you want to grow 20% year over year, or you want the velocity, anything you can tell us about what you work on?
I mean, my ultimate goal is that, for Bristol Farms, our category, it's a destination. One of those things that, again, back 20 years ago, there might have been 1 or 2 health food stores. They were destinations because that's all you could get. We do have the benefit now of being in a time where you can get a lot of these products everywhere. So that's pretty exciting because that was our ultimate goal when Natural started, is that it was accessible to everyone. So for me, I really just want to have a really curated set, making sure that we have the best of the best, that we're servicing the most people, that people feel comfortable with their buying decisions. And part of it is the training of the teams. One of my most important things for my teams is that they're part of the decision-making process. So ultimately, I will make a final decision, but knowing that they are being heard, it's very important to have a voice. So the reason why we've been successful is my team definitely feels like they have a voice, that they're part of the process instead of, that I'm dictating to them, okay, this is what you have to carry. They reach out to me. They're proud of what they do. They kind of look at, I guess I always joke, I think they look at me like a father figure, and that they're trying to not please me. I always say it's like, I don't want to feel, because then that sounds like I'm like hard on them. They want to do well because they want me to do well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that. I feel it. Like, yeah, people are, I mean, yeah, they, it's a close knit group, and they really want to be successful with you, for you, just for the whole team wins. And I got the chance to go to one of the, I think, annual or semi-annual events that you hold with your team. out at the company headquarters where you invite some of the vendors and then they get to meet the whole team and present to everybody in demo. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's something I did in my past but the other events I used to do in my other stores I've worked in were more featured with consumers. So when I came here, having kind of figuring out how we could grow the category, how to get excitement, because for natural living is relatively new at Bristol Farms. We've only had this category for about 5 years. So it's very new to our stores, even though we're an older store. And so the benefit of having these, I now have them every other month. And they're different focus. So one month I had Living La Vida Local, which was all, local brands. Then I had, the one that's coming up is Naturalpalooza. So that's more of like a celebration of our brand. So, looking at different attributes. And for us, for me, it was on a personal level. I just love doing events and, it nourishes me because I love building a team. And there, again, this situation of a lot of times, like we all look in stores, you feel like you're very isolated. You're your own store. You're the only ones dealing with these problems. In retail, it's always like, oh, no one understands us type of situation. And having these events where we could all come together has been a huge benefit, because not only do they get to know each other, because ultimately we're all working for the same company, and they can lean on each other and say, oh, I'm having trouble getting this, or how do I do this? So having these events where we could all be in person was a huge boost on just team morale, and felt like, okay, they're taking them. And the other benefit is you're taking them out of the store and they're dedicated to education. They're dedicated to brands. They're not having to worry about, do they need to place orders? Do they need to go take out the trash? Whatever their duties are for the day. So having this and just having a focus, like, going back to when they came back, and we generally have about 40 brands, and now they're connected. Like I said, they get to know you. And in the situation where they can be in a relaxed environment, but they get to know the brands on a different level, they get to taste it. It just, has been, I often wonder why other retailers are low cost to us, but high results and high return for us. So there's no downside for us to do this. So really we leaned into it for different themes. And it's a one thing that I would say the one day of the year, we now do it 5 times a year, is the thing that I enjoy the most. I mean, it's when I'm in my element. It takes my kind of introverted self into being a little more extroverted. So that really helps me. So
that's awesome. And if you keep doing music themed ones, I'm just going to apply to come be the musical entertainment. I'll bring my little ukulele and come play the theme song for the Startup CPG podcast.
Look, you can do that. Actually, our next one. So the Naturalpalooza, we need a band. So if you're ready.
I'll come. Yeah, I'll play it. Fun fact, all of the music for the Startup CPG podcast is from my album. Super Fantastic. Wow. Oh, should you check it out on Spotify? Yeah, maybe.
Oh, shit. I didn't even know that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so speaking of like how brands get on your radar for Naturalpalooza, for example, like I know I see you post this on LinkedIn, and so brands that follow you can apply that way, or how else could they find out about? Because it's such a cool opportunity.
I mean, most of it's come through LinkedIn. It's been huge. Like when I post it, within 30 minutes, I have the whole, I send an email out to all of our current vendors, but then I also post on LinkedIn, because one of the goals that on LinkedIn, there might be people that I don't know of. The great is you're putting it into the public, you're putting it into the atmosphere, and then people will see it because I'm doing it as a public post. And during that process, then everyone DMs me. And so a lot of times what has occurred is I always have 5 to 6 spots there for brands that we haven't been introduced to yet. I have not been introduced. They get an opportunity to come to that. And there oftentimes we do end up adding those. But, it was one of those goals was I wanted the team to see these 5 brands, give me feedback. And if they're excited about it, then I know they're going to sell it. Because again, going back to ultimately, I don't personally sell any of our products. I'm not in store selling products. So if I can get the team excited about a brand, it's only going to benefit both the brand and the store.
We'll be right back. Hey listeners, we all know how important it is to get dedicated face time with retail buyers. And now when you upgrade to a RangeMeet Pro subscription, you get 3 in-person buyer meetings at an ECRM session. That's right, 3 20-minute private meetings with buyers in your category. Tell them your story, sample your products, and have a distraction-free conversation. And a pro tip, our Startup CPG community discount is the best deal around on RangeMeet. You can get RangeMeet Pro with the 3 meetings for $11.99. That's more than half off the regular annual rate. RangeMeet Pro subscribers also get unlimited product listings, a dedicated customer success manager, VIP access to limited time campaigns, exclusive ongoing submission opportunities, and insights into which retailers are checking out your brand and products. To learn more, visit rangeme.com/startupcpg. And now back to the show. That's awesome. And yeah, I know when I see you do those posts, I mean, what a cool opportunity to be out there. So I always will post them in our Startup CPG Slack, which I think also then leads to you getting an onslaught of new people interested in it. So we'll always do that because that is our job basically, is to just to try to help brands connect with awesome people like you. And then so for the general reset though, I mean, how do overall submissions work with you guys? Let's say somebody doesn't have a broker. So obviously they can try to connect with you, but how are most people doing it? Is there an official reset calendar and submissions through like a portal, or how does that work?
We are working on a portal. I think that's probably coming within the next 6 months. It would be for all categories, because we are getting to a point where we get so many submissions and there's things that don't fit our needs or our categories. So it would help reduce some of those submissions for us just to be able to manage it properly. Right now for natural living, like in grocery, they do have a calendar that they utilize for resets. And natural living, I have not gotten to that point. Next year that will begin. But right now it's very open-ended. You know, I just tend to be, I want to get the first market. So I'm just quick to grab things. And I'm very visual. I know what I need and I know what the teams need, so I can get it in quickly. So it's just a different process, but ultimately there will be a point when I kind of took over the category, we had to get rid of a lot of things that honestly just weren't for our customer base. And then I knew there were things that we didn't stock. And so I was able to add those quickly. So really it's an ongoing process for me, just any category. I mean, there's definitely categories that I want to build because maybe they don't have the same velocity at the moment or the same growth. But I think the way I've done it, where I've kind of just really worked with every category this year, the last 2 years, 3 years, I'd be going in 3 years now. We've had positive growth every single week for the last 3 years since I've been here.
All right.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud of that. I mean, ultimately, when I came here, we were a declining category. And then immediately I just could see the voids and see the brands that I knew that were just trending really well. I got those in. And then now I think we have the highest % growth in the company.
Whoa, congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
That's so good. It doesn't surprise me, honestly, just seeing the engagement from your team, the excitement of the set. And for anybody who has not been into a Bristol Farms, definitely go check it out. It's a super cool store. And obviously stop by Natural Living, check out the whole set there. Just very, very cool. So for brands that don't, let's say, know you, are most of them basically submitting through brokers, or do they, like right now before there's a portal, or they're just like hustling and figuring out the buyer's email?
I mean, the 3 ways I do receive is somehow they just know my email, so they're emailing me their information. A lot of it's through brokers, obviously. So a good portion of it, local brokers that we utilize, and then a lot of it now comes from LinkedIn. So on a daily, I get probably 20 to 30 brands DM me. Some of it's my category. That's been the biggest challenge, honestly, is as I've become more public and accessible. It's one of those things like, everyone's like, I know you're not this buyer. Can you help me with that? And, ultimately I do want to do that, but, kind of what we talked about, being protective of my own personal time. I have to be really protective of that because I can't.
You still have a job to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I'm grateful that people feel like they feel comfortable enough to coming to me to help them. And I always want to help someone, but, I would say that's the 3 ways that people, at least for myself, have access to me. And it's been successful. Like there's never too little request, it's if there's too many for sure. But we're hoping to really start thinning it out a little bit so that we can be a little more targeted for sure.
And you mentioned before searching for brands on Instagram. When you do that, is it because you go to the main search bar, are you searching for like a hashtag, or you type in the name of ingredient? Like, how do you actually do that?
Searching, and then eventually as I'm looking for things, a lot comes up on my For You page. So just the way that those how the algorithms will start pulling those things in. So even like if I go to TikTok, a lot of times because I'm looking at health products, then I start just finding things that way. So very traditional. I'm very active. I go to our competitors. I tend to be the one where I'm constantly taking pictures when I'm in stores. I'm trying to find different things. So just really actively, but dedicating time to doing search. So like I said, once a week, I will go onto social media and just do a 3-hour search on new items because I want to see the engagement. Like a lot of times I can also see how they're engaging with the customer. So if I see that there's a lot of likes or there's a lot of comments, then I know that that's probably a brand that's going to do very well in our stores.
That's amazing. And how much do you want them to be, local, for example? Like, do you prioritize local brands because they'll come in and support it with demos and stuff, or how do you think about that?
I mean, we definitely want local. I mean, the thing, going back to the social tonics have been great because they're the ones who have been able to lean in on demos and be a little bit more connected to the teams. Supplements is a little more challenging because there's not as many local supplements, and sometimes pricing can be a little challenging because they're not going to have the economies of scale. I think there's things like that. But we definitely want local. We're still kind of leaning in on that, trying to make sure that's an attribute people want. In Los Angeles, we're kind of spoiled because we have so many brands that are local. I mean, when I lived on the East Coast, I had a handful that I could say that were truly local. Here, the national brands, some of the top brands that you see in stores are local to Los Angeles, Orange County, and San Diego. So I think we kind of get a little spoiled in California for that reason. But I think ultimately local is an attribute that people want. I think people also want, clean products. I think regenerative is another one that a lot of people are looking for now. But we're trying to lean in on local more because we have a couple companies right now that are just introduced that were local. And the benefit is that they're doing demos 3 or 4 times a week. And they're connecting to our brands that I maybe wouldn't receive with a national brand.
That's great. And I know, I think I first learned a lot about your stores from our friends at Leisure Hydration, who I know they were early on in there and they were demoing at the stores and figuring out the best times and places to be to really support the business. And they're local here, and that's actually, they're hosting our Million Message Party next month also. So we'll all get to hang out together. And then one other thing I wanted to ask you about also is that, like, I know for you, it's really important to share your message and learnings with everybody and create community with the industry. I know you have plans also to launch your own podcast and anything that you want to tell people about just to make sure that they can follow along?
Yep. I don't have the name of it. So we are launching a podcast in June or July. I have a podcast co-host that I'm super excited about. Her name is Donna. She was one of our vendors. We've become good friends since just meeting. But we're super excited. It's going to be we're going to kind of change up the podcast a little bit where we want to have it more of a social type of interaction. So it'll be in person. We're going to be drinking throughout the whole episode. So, I'm not, because I still got to bring the fun to everything I do. I can't just make it I just don't want to make it so informational. So it's going to be really fun. It's going to kind of be a round table where we're going to be eating. The cocktail will be named after either the brand or the person on the episode. We already have, I think right now I have about 40 or 50 people already lined up for it. So I'm super excited because it's something, like I said, it's helping me to send my message, because my message has always been to, promote kindness, promote community. And so it allows me an opportunity outside of myself. And, if I can help one company or 2 companies to get more exposure, that really makes me feel like I had a purpose. That's ultimately my purpose, is to really help others. It's something, a lesson that I learned early. My mom taught me throughout my life, to really just be service to others. And so if I have a little bit of a voice and I'm able to utilize that voice to help others, that's really special to me. So that's the main thing I'm also going to be doing. We're creating some events around LA that I'm working on this year that we're going to bring brands together. I have a couple locations where we're going to kind of do we haven't decided if it'd be a pitch slam, but one of the cool things, we found this event location where we're going to focus on the 5 senses. So we have a whole area that would be focused on taste. We have one that'll be on sound, one will be on visual, one will be on emotional. So we're trying to, it'd be really cool where we're going to just have all these brands get together, because it's just, my purpose is to create community, really help others. Because, it's a challenging time we're in. And if we can support each other, that's ultimately, it's the human connection is why we're all here. So if I can do that through what I'm doing, that's special to me.
That's super cool, man. I'm excited to attend those. If you need somebody for the emotional one to, I don't know, sit there and just cry and everyone can experience that, I'll do it. Or if you want someone to give out hugs, I'm there. I'm in.
I can see you. Yes, you're going to be the official hugger. So
Yeah.
if you're good with that, start practicing the hugging this week.
Yeah. Or maybe me and you and Efren, we can do a high five line.
I love
Everyone
that.
coming up to the product, they come and we'll line up 10 of us, and they can come and do 10 high fives and then try a product. They'll be in the best possible mood to
I love that.
experience it as it was meant to be experienced. That's really cool, man. I'm super excited to tune in for your podcast, especially after you guys are a few drinks deep. I think it'll start to get very, very fun. I know a lot of drink vendors who would love to send you guys some product for that.
And that's what it's going to do. What's the cool part is, we're obviously going to have some alcohol versions and some non-alcohol versions. And we will have, people on there brands that I love, and we're going to use them as a cocktail. And I think it's going to be special, because I really, again, having that extra element, I think is just going to add a little bit more excitement and fun to the podcast.
I love it. Maybe go all the way and do, like the show Drunk History.
Oh no, I have heard of that, but I need to watch it.
People just basically they get people wasted and they have to tell some kind of history. So it'll be kind of a mix between, some classical podcast and then also that. So Darren, thank you so much. I'm really excited to see you a bunch at the next couple of events that we mentioned. The Million Message Party that's coming up June 6th, and then Fancy Foods. We're going to be doing a bunch of fun stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one.
As Darren mentioned, definitely give him a follow on LinkedIn. You're going to love the content, really inspirational posts that he shares about his personal journey, as well as just really cool information about Bristol Farms, natural living, his category, overall insights in the industry. So definitely give him a follow there. You'll be very happy you did. And Darren, thank you again just for everything that you do. It's really fun to be your friend and, a colleague in the industry. And it's going to be really fun just to know you as we're all in this industry for a long time.
Yes. I love this industry. I love people. So, I just can't say enough about you, Daniel. Obviously, I'm super grateful that you've provided a lot of people, including myself, opportunities. And I think that's what makes you special, obviously. So let's continue to, get that community out there, pump people up and make them successful.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast today, it would really help us out if you can leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I am Daniel Scharff. I'm the host and founder of Startup CPG. Please feel free to reach out or add me on LinkedIn. If you're a potential sponsor that would like to appear on the podcast, please email partnerships@startupcpg.com. And reminder to all of you out there, we would love to have you join the community. You can sign up at our website, startupcpg.com, to learn about our webinars, events, and Slack channel. If you enjoyed today's music, you can check out my band. It's the Super Fantastics on Spotify Music. On behalf of the entire Startup CPG team, thank you so much for listening and your support. See you next time.